So thanks for doing this, first of all. I really appreciate it. I think it's funny, like I kind of came arseways around to interviewing you. So you were actually the first, you were one of the first people I wanted to interview when I started off. I think I don't know, we'll get into it later on, but I think the demo team thing was something that really stood out as like, fuck, that would be really interesting to talk about. Like, this is back, almost a year ago when I started doing it. And I
Hmm.
think I came to you in such an arseways way where I interviewed everyone around you, like slowly making my way in towards the center. Um, but when I spoke to Pete, he was saying that you guys before lockdown were thinking about doing like a coffee collaboration with like getting someone in maybe into NCR. I was curious, like who was the driving force behind that, or was it like a mutual decision?
Honestly, I don't remember, and it didn't really go that far. It's just because I'm sure Pete explained it, but it was just like we know some guys that own a coffee shop in Ottawa, and we were just figured like it could be really cool. And I keep seeing this on like people's Instagrams, like, oh, there's a little coffee corner at their gyms and everything like
Mm,
that, and I think that's really cool. And it's a nice little value added for the members. So we always thought it'd be nice, but I mean, our setup isn't like the best for that, but I mean, who was the driving force? All three of us love coffee, so
yeah.
we just basically like a lot of the decisions we make for the gym. It's like, what would I really like to have here, and then let's do it.
I don't know. Do you know Adam Davison? He was at.
Yeah. Well, Adam trained at our gym for a full year, leading up to the regionals in 2015.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was with us.
He um he had a similar outlook for his gym where he was like, "What would I really want?" And he said that they were drawing up plans for his gym, and he had like an area cordoned off, and his like partner was like, what's that? Like why is that boxed off?" And he's like, "Oh, that's going to be like the cafe area." And she was like, "No, like that's not happening." And then he went and bought like a second hand like coffee machine, like proper cafe quality. He was like, "Oh, it should have cost like $18,000, but I got it for like half price." And I was like, "That's still fucking $9,000, man."
That's that's still not the best idea.
Yeah, but in fairness to him, like
You're gonna
it's
yeah, I mean you're gonna have to sell a shitload of coffee to make your money back on that thing.
yeah, I
Think,
think he
but
gives away
yeah,
a lot of his coffee as well. But no,
yeah,
it is a cool idea. I like, and I've spoken about it a few times with a few different people. Like this kind of there's a seems to be a natural affinity between CrossFit and coffee of that kind of community thing. I suppose like first of all the need for caffeine, and then that like
yeah.
community thing, and it kind of, I suppose, it inspires and fuels a bit of conversation and a bit of, it's something to talk about and to talk over. So I think there does seem to be natural links there. I was curious as well about, like, I love hearing about guests like coffee memories, like maybe somewhere they were, someone they were with, or like a bit of news that they got maybe with around a coffee. Is there anything that springs to mind?
For me,
Yeah.
over a coffee, not really, not really. When I think about that, like a conversation over coffee, when I used to work uh before my CrossFit life, I was working in like a company. It was like a crown corporation here in Ottawa in finance. And I just remember like going for coffee with like higher up guys, like that was the thing to do, like
Yeah.
asking guys higher in the company, like, hey, you want to go for coffee? And like, let me pick your brain on how to, get ahead. I think those are, I guess, some of the conversations that I would remember as like important ones. But you know what? Most of my conversations happening every single day just revolve around having coffee. So
Yeah. Yeah.
because I basically have a cup of coffee going on the entire morning. So um, yeah, nothing that sticks out really.
Yeah. I know, that's good. I like that. Um, you guys had and like an NCR kind of podcast, like a video podcast throughout like lockdown as well. Like Pete was saying, it was helpful for like keeping people engaged, and like suppose giving people a bit of a focus and stuff and a way to communicate, or a different way to communicate. How did you find like recording and releasing those episodes? Was there a little bit maybe less pressure because you knew all the people that were listening and because it was like part of your community, or was there still a bit of kind of maybe trepidation about putting your voice out there?
A little bit of both. Like we always knew when we were doing the podcast, like we knew it wasn't necessarily going to get really big, and our listeners were our members, and that's who we were getting feedback from it. And that's basically why we did it, right? Like we didn't, like, to get your podcast out there and to get some listens and some views, you got to grind and you got to, publish a lot. So we kind of tried that during COVID, but honestly, it just got like, not annoying, but almost like too much. We would like try to record every single day, and it was great. Like we had some sweet people come on the podcast, and it was really cool to get some of our members come on the podcast and give us kind of their pitch of what they do in real life, whether it was like nutrition or in the military, or we interviewed like an ICU nurse, intensive care unit nurse here in Ottawa during COVID. So it was kind of cool. Like we got some cool perspective on that, and that was fun. But we didn't like really push it to make it huge out there and to get thousands of listens, right? It's just for our community. So
do you think you ever would, like, would you ever do something wider reaching, do you think?
No, I think I like staying in my lane. Like I don't know if I'd be a phenomenal podcaster or
to be honest, I don't know if any of us are.
Yeah. It's I think there's a skill to it. It's a skill to it. It's to make it interesting. It's to have good conversations with people, and again, like like I said, it's a grind. Like you gotta really put yourself out there and publish and get the right people on there. And so no, probably not. I think we basically just stopped doing it. I don't know exactly why, but it was Pete had taken the initiative on that. So I think when he stopped scheduling them, we stopped doing them. But oddly enough, some of the podcasts that we got the most feedback on were just the three of us shooting the shit and talking. Right. So that I thought that was interesting, because in my head it'd be the opposite. Like I don't feel like the conversations going on between Pete, myself, and Reza are the ones that the members would enjoy listening to, but apparently it was.
Yeah, I suppose maybe they saw a different side to you that they don't usually get to see. Maybe more like, a long form conversation, when usually they might only get like 10 minutes before a class or after a class or whatever. Do you find it anyway awkward or like difficult being interviewed about you specifically, like when you have to talk about yourself?
Not really. I've done a few podcasts and everything, so and it's cool because they all have like kind of a different feel to it, and people want to know different things. So no, I don't really mind. I like talking about past experiences and things that I've learned through it. I feel like there's a little bit of value there, and if the listeners can grab a little something from it, then it's cool. But no, it's fine. I like it.
Yeah. I was looking up a few bits about you when I was researching, and one thing like that came up was this Crashed Ice World Championship.
Oh yeah.
In 2012 or 2013. So I was like, right, what's this? And I was like Googling it. What the fuck? Like, it is psychotic. It's basically like a roller derby on ice skates, like with blades attached to your feet on ice, with like it's essentially a bobsled course. Like there's all like turns and twists and hills and jumps. It's There's actually one part. I don't know if this is like universal for the courses or if it was just the one video I watched, but there was like, I think it was in Japan or somewhere, I don't know where it was, but there was like the start line. Everyone was at the start line, like 6 guys or whatever, and they started going and the camera like moved back, and it created this weird optical illusion where they seemed to be at like a height and like drop down off the height onto the course, but it was like it looked like it was about like 9 feet or 8 feet the drop. Like it is fucking mind-boggling intense, that sport.
Yeah, I mean, that was so fun, dude. Red Bull Crushed Ice was so fun. Like, I think back about, those couple years of my life, and it was just like super, super fun. It was like basically Red Bull. It was at the beginning where Red Bull was just like, putting their name on all these extreme
Everything.
sports. Yeah, exactly. And like they made this thing up where it's just a bunch of guys wearing hockey gear in skates going down a course on ice at full speed. And it's basically the motocross equivalent, or ski cross or snowboard cross, but on skates, on like these man-made circuits.
Yeah.
And there's a world tour and everything. And when I did it, it was still fairly new, so you could qualify like as a nobody, just a guy who played hockey, and
Just a
you would
psycho.
go and yeah, just a psycho. Like, honestly, it was just like one of my buddies made it in like 2012 or something like that, and then we went to Quebec City to go watch him in the finals. And then I remember sitting there going like, man, I got to try this. Like, next year I'm going to the tryouts. And the tryouts were really interesting because it was just, they would travel around, Red Bull would travel around to like these rinks in Canada, and it would be, let's say the Ottawa tryout. So it'd be like, okay, the first 200 people that show up to the rink get to try out. And it's like a course on flat ice. So nothing like the normal, like downhill stuff, just flat ice. And it was the top 10 times get to go to Quebec City for the World Championship. So it's like, okay, cool. So we do it. I qualify that year. And then we go to Quebec City. I do terrible in Quebec City that year. And then after that, I was like, yeah, I need to come back and try it. So I did it again. And this was in 2013. And this was right during the Open. So 2013, right in the middle of the Open, I had to go to a gym in Quebec City to do one of the Open workouts in between my races. So, because you'd show up and you had to do like these time trials, and then they'd rank you based on your time trials. And, in between one of the races, I had to go do like, I think it was like 13.2 or something like that. It was a deadlift, box jump, push press workout. I remember perfectly. And then, so I do Red Bull, and I was doing really well that year. And my final race, I fall, man, and I destroyed my elbow, like chipped my elbow. It was like out to here. And then I get home like 2 days later, and I had to do the wall ball double under muscle up workout in 2013. So I remember thinking, like, I finished that workout. I'm like, yeah, I'm done with Red Bull Crash Bash. Like, it's over. I can't do this. Like, this is stupid. So that's when I stopped. And basically, like, I wasn't really that good, right? I was just like kind of a walk on. Like, these guys were on tour, they were sponsored, they had like real helmets and everything. Like, there's just like probably half the guys were pros and half the guys were just like complete hockey plugs, like I was, who like kind of got on to fill some spots. But I ended up getting to like the top 30 out of like 200. So it was like I wiggled my way through the pros.
And like, I assume it was the fact that you played hockey led you to see an opportunity there, like that you're obviously comfortable enough on its skates that you're like, yeah, I could probably be fine. And you don't have a fear of like getting mangled either.
Yeah. And I did a bunch of skiing too growing up. So like that kind of downhill helped. But honestly, Red Bull it was a lot about the start. So like, if you could be really explosive out of the gates, like unless the one in Japan where it's like a complete drop, which I did one of those in Niagara Falls, and it was like you could take 2 strides and then right away you had to drop. Like, that was insane. But most of them you could take like a few strides before the initial drop, and if you could get out in front and like take up enough room, then you could do pretty well. So that was always my game plan, is like just beat the guys to the first corner. If you beat the guys to the first corner, you're fine. Just don't fall.
Yeah. I think as well though, like okay, all of it was terrifying to watch, but the finish line is especially like you're looking at people literally diving head first across the line just to get there first, and it's like, man, those guys have knives on their feet and you're like sliding head first just to get past them. There's so many where it's just the skates are going past people's fingers and you're like, oh, that guy's hand is gone, but he's just somehow fine. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's insane.
I love a lot of international people are like Americans look at that and like this is insane, but like a lot of like Canadian hockey boys are just like, yeah, man, like that's just the way we were brought up on the ice, playing hockey. So
I mean, when
yeah,
you were playing
it was
hockey,
wild.
I know there's different. I don't know a lot about hockey, but I know there's a shit ton of fights and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
were you like a skillful player or like a thug, or how would you have described yourself when you were playing?
Good question. I wasn't necessarily a skillful player. Like I wasn't a guy that was like who had very nice hands or I wasn't the best at stick handling, but I was always pretty fast and just like strong. So there's a term in hockey, it's called power forward.
Okay,
So I guess I would describe myself as that. But no, I wasn't a fighter or anything like that.
not
I've
like
gotten it.
you weren't like the guy in Mighty Ducks that was brought on just to.
What's his name? Fulton or
Oh yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, Fuller, yeah.
yeah,
No, I mean I've gotten into fights. I've gotten into many hockey fights, but I wasn't like the guy whose jersey got pulled by the coach
yeah,
to
yeah.
go fight that guy. No, not me.
I remember my only real, so like apart from Mighty Ducks, my only real engagement with hockey was like you used to have the NHL games, like EA Sports used to make the NHL like
Yeah,
year, like 2002 or whatever. And I just remember that as soon as the puck went in, you had the opportunity to flick your gloves off and start fighting like
yeah,
within
yeah,
like
yeah,
2 seconds of it starting. So I think that told me everything I needed to know about like people's opinions of the sport. That it was just like a
yeah.
fight with a hockey game going on in the background.
I know that's how a lot of people think it is, and sometimes
Yeah.
you get in the right game against the right team, and that's how it happens. The puck would drop and you see gloves flying, but the hockey's it's changed a little bit. Like when I was playing, it was already kind of getting less and less about fighting and more about the hockey.
Yeah, yeah. Moving on to CrossFit then, like you've
Yeah,
a pretty like decorated history in the sport, but I read that it started on the crossbars of soccer goals in a park. Is that true?
yeah, man, absolutely, yeah. Um, and it was yeah, so it was a soccer net, and we would run to the park, do Cindy, and the story goes as well, I was just working out with a couple of buddies at work because there was a gym in the basement, and one of
Mm.
the guys was like, "Hey, like we need to up our workouts a little bit. Like, we need to go a little bit harder." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. Let's do it." He's like, you got to try this CrossFit thing." I'm like, "Deal. Like, send it to me. Let's go. Let's do it." He's like, "All right, we're gonna run to the park, and then for 20 minutes, we're gonna do 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, and 15 squats." And I'm like, "That's it? All right, sure. Like, let's go." So obviously, like the typical, like, "Oh, that's it. That's nothing,"
Yeah.
right? So we go, and then we would run there, and I would probably do something that resembles a kipping pull up or just like a strict pull up with a lot of legs like flaring,
Mm.
and then we would do Cindy and then run back. But yeah, that was my first CrossFit workout.
There's
Didn't
like
even really know I was doing Cindy, but
yeah.
that was it.
I'm always curious with people like that. So like most people who will say like make it in the sport and like get to the games or get to, like those kind of heights, it tends to be, oh, a friend of mine said, oh, you'd be pretty good at this. I'm always curious, do people stay in touch? Like, have you ever spoken to that guy since? And
Oh
has he
yeah,
been like, fuck, I cannot believe that I introduced this to you and now here you are. Like,
yeah. I've stayed in touch with him. I met like a lot, and it was him, but we had a group of guys, but him specifically. And what he did is he sent me a picture of the podium that year, which would have been it was Rich. It was the year Graham Holmberg won, I think.
mm,
So so it was right before the games in 2011 is when he sent it to me. So it was the year before the podium,
yeah,
and I remember just thinking like, man, these guys are ripped. Like these guys are jacked and they're not that big. They're just like they look lean and strong. So I'm like,
yeah.
that's cool. I want that. Um, but yeah, we stayed in touch quite a bit, and he'll come to the gym every once in a while. He doesn't come to the gym regularly because he has a home setup, but he'll come and we'll just chat and hang out and talk about the good old days. But it's really when I think about that, like as time goes by, like I've been doing CrossFit for almost 9 years now, or yeah, just over 9 years, and opened the gym almost for 8 years. And it's like it's fun to look back on those stories and think that, how much my life changed at that moment.
Yeah.
Like that moment when that guy told me about CrossFit, and like we went to the park and did that workout, like what everything that happened after that was just like all about CrossFit. You know what I mean? Like all
Yeah.
my decisions, all the decisions that I made, all the people that I met, like it's funny. I mean, it could be anything, right? Like you as well. Like when you decide to become a teacher, like something
Yeah.
happens,
But even
and then
like
from that, yeah,
he might have not said it. Like he might have been like, "Do you know what we should do?" Be like, "What? Ah, nothing. Never mind." And like your whole life would be totally different. Like it's crazy,
yeah,
really.
exactly.
Um,
And then yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you
funny.
left. So you were working in finance. You said at the start there, and then
Yeah,
this was when you were working in that job. So
yeah,
like you leave that job to do like, okay, if you're doing CrossFit 9 years and you've opened a gym 8 years ago, I assume there was a relatively short window of working in finance and doing CrossFit. So
yeah.
was that like a pure passion decision, or was it like, did you see a viable future in it, or were you like, I just want to be involved in this somehow?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. Like I was a little bit lost in terms of career, and I was kind of just going through the motions, and I didn't really have a passion for finance, or what I was doing. And then what I was doing was very like entry level
Hmm.
finance jobs, or just like some little bit of a financial analysis and basically inputting in financial statements and things like that, just entry level. But I wasn't really passionate about it. So I think what CrossFit gave me in that opportunity to jump into something new was kind of just my exit, or my path to get away from what I was doing. And it wasn't easy. Like I was working the job, and kind of a few things happened at the same time. Like I found CrossFit, so at the same time, I was going to go back to school and get the rest of my accounting credits, because I had a finance degree, but I wanted to maybe, I was so lost. I'm like, maybe I'll
Hmm.
just write my CPA or something like that and become an accountant. So I went back to school. So it's just so happened that like I was in school while I joined a CrossFit gym. And like students, like those are the guys you see at the gym all day long because they're students, right? So it's just like I would skip class, I would, just work out all the time. And I'm like, this is amazing. I'm not passionate at all about accounting. And then I met Reza, who he was the guy. He was the guy in Ottawa. Everybody, like, I remember one of the coaches that I was at the gym with, I did this workout, and he's like, "Man, you should really meet this guy Reza. Like, he's the best CrossFitter in Ottawa. You guys should train together." I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, where do I find this guy? And I actually ran into him at a bar, like not even at the gym. I ran into him at a bar. I'm like, that's Reza. We're both drunk. I'm like, "You're Reza?" He's like, "Yeah." "I'm Paul." He's like, "Yeah, I heard about you. Let's train." Like it was just a bunch of like it was the typical like two meatheads finding each other, and like,
Yeah.
from there we just started training. But he had already kind of tried to look for a spot to open up a gym.
Hmm.
And when he said that, I'm like, "Man, I'm in. Like, let's do this." So I stopped. I quit the school. I just did one semester, and then we opened the gym.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you compete then, so like obviously I suppose like the 2014 games must be like high on your list of like memories, and then you've got like the team series with Ben Smith and Emily and Stacy, like, and you like winning that in 2015. Is there any maybe particular moment that you think will never die in your head?
A lot, man, a lot. Like some moments, because we went to the games in 2012 on a team, and there's a lot of moments that year, like competing at the games on a team, that were very pivotal for me mentally. Where I remember thinking, like watching, um, the individuals go, or like meeting some of the individuals, and in my head just thinking like, I'm coming back here, but not on a team. Like I'm coming
Hmm.
back as an individual. So I remember some of those moments. But yeah, obviously, competing in 2014 was huge. I always say I was kind of lucky that year. I won a tiebreak at regionals. There's a lot of really fit dudes. There's one really fit guy, Albert Dominique LaRouche, that just wiped the floor with us, and then there was a bunch of guys behind him that was fighting for second spot. So I got lucky, right place, the right time that year, and I got to go to the games. And but and then from going to the games and maybe making a little bit of noise in some of the events that I did, because I had a few top 10 finishes. I got to meet some people, and that's why Ben, called me up to do the team series. I had never hung out with Ben or really talked to him. And that was just kind of through Reebok and that sponsorship. But I always say my most favorite moment, and the one that I'll never forget, was the Invitational. Like that was amazing. And I really hope they bring it back, because that was cool. That was a fun format. And we were so close to winning. And anyways, I think about it. I still think about it now, but no, that was just really cool, because it was like there's only a select few, and I know it's just CrossFit and it's not like the Olympics or anything like that, but representing your country and putting on a jersey that says Canada, growing up, like that's what every kid dreams of, playing for the Canadian hockey team,
Yeah.
So it's just, obviously it's not even close to that, like I said, but it was, that was special, very special for me.
I think more recently then, like Iceland, I suppose like the snatch event in Iceland must have been like even just fun, like to win an event like that, and there was so much hype around it as well.
Yeah, Iceland, man, I had such a good time in Iceland. Obviously I did well, so that helps with having a good time, and the programming was very much in my favor. So it was, I had a great time, and that's another moment that was like, okay, I might still have it, I might still want to compete, because I beat some pretty good, decent guys, and obviously the programming was played in my favor, but I knew that I could still compete, even, that was like 2 years ago now, almost. So I don't know about it anymore, but Iceland was so fun, man. They did a really good job. And I wasn't a huge fan of like the whole sanctional format and everything, but it allowed for a lot of people to travel and try different things. And, going to Iceland and hanging out with Bjorgvin, and I went with Tim, and we shared a room, and it was just, that was really cool. My wife got to come, like it was fun.
Yeah. What is it about the sanctional format that you weren't a fan of? Was it just like was it kind of too messy, do you think, or what was your issue with it? Was it just like are you just an RIP regionals guy?
Yeah, no, yeah. It was a bunch of things, but I think there's a huge amount of potential in that format, and I think it's moving towards that. And I hear some rumblings about what's going to be next year, and I'm super excited for it. And I think that maybe the path towards the ideal selection process for the games had to go through kind of a revamp, and I believe in that, and that's totally fine. But I think you ask any like old schooler CrossFitter, I guess I'm an old schooler CrossFitter now, but the regionals was so fun. That weekend where you had one shot of going at the games, and it was always kind of the same guys in your region, and that was really cool. That was really fun, and we were, you kind of structured your year around that. And for a lot of guys, like that was their game, right?
Yeah.
And same with me. I only went in 2014, so for me, going to regionals every year and fighting for one of those top 5 spots and coming fucking super close a bunch of times was at the same time devastating, but really fun to kind of think about that all year long. So I just really, it's not so much that I didn't like the sanctioned format. I just really enjoyed the regionals, and I think that we really got the best guys at the games, right? So I thought that was a really good system, and we're hopefully moving towards something like that again.
The same year as Iceland, you were here in Ireland doing Filthy with your team with Nation. How did you find Ireland as somewhere to visit, and what was it like competing here?
Ireland was really cool.
So you're actually going to be like, "Oh, Ireland was shit." Like,
yeah, I'll tell you honestly. Like, I think the programming in Ireland was a little out there, and it was. I think there was a lot of different standards that I didn't necessarily agree with, but I mean, that's the nature of the sanctioned events. They can do whatever they want. And um, it was, I think like, honestly, there was a lot of potential in the programming. Like the programming I thought was really great, but there's just little things. Each event almost had like a stopper or like, oh, but wait a minute, you can't do this or you have to do this. It's like, and that's not just Island. Like I think a lot of sanctioned events just like tried to reinvent the wheel, and the best ones were the ones that kept it simple and just let's do some CrossFit, you know. So
Is that
let's
like
not over.
I was listening to Savan and Dave like last week, and Dave was saying that you kind of you need to have a test and you need to have something different, but you have to tread a fine line of going like falling into gimmick, like where it's like, you know, like twists, unnecessary twists maybe, or unnecessary
Yeah,
like new things. I think like Dubai maybe was guilty of that a few times, like bringing in movements where you're kind of like, well, that's a bit random. Like, you know, like, do you think, are you hopeful now that this new system that's being talked about is going to be more like universal, that like at least there'll be a maybe a central list of standards that need to be kept across the board?
yeah. Hopefully, I think it's moving towards that, and I think there still should have a little bit of liberty. Like every sanctioned event should have some liberty to make it their own and to have a different twist. But definitely having it overlooked by some other, you know, governing body, whether that's CrossFit or another organization, then that's fine. Um, but I didn't listen to the Sevon and Dave podcast. But it's just like that's the beauty of it. It's just so simple. And you know, being behind the scenes with Dave for so many years, you know, testing the workouts, being on the demo team, testing workouts, you know, day before the fucking workout actually happens, or you know, going up, you know, 2 months before and testing workouts before the games. I just really got to see how like how simple it can be and how good of a test he can construct by keeping it simple and you know, making nasty workouts.
Like when you're on, so I saw you put up a post like a while ago, but it was like, you know, you were kind of tongue in cheek, but it sounded like it might be fairly truthful as well. That like Dave was like, "Oh, can you do a heavy snatch?" And that before you knew you were putting your hands on the bar, that like the immediacy of the demonstration is something that I think was maybe lost on me when I'm watching the games, and I never really think about like that stuff that you're talking about, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and how quickly it needs to happen and how late in the day it might happen, or like conversely how early it might happen, and then so much fine tuning has to take place. Is that like when you're demoing or practicing or, you know, like trialing a workout, do you feel like pressure to, you know, like say if Dave has constructed this test and he obviously thinks it's a really good test, and then you're doing it, is there a pressure there to be like, all right, don't fuck this up now because this could like take this workout completely out of the circulation and it's a good workout? Like,
Yeah, for sure there was a pressure like that, but I never really thought, oh, he's not gonna like this workout based on my performance, because I truly believe that every athlete that he watched do the workouts was just good data for him.
hmm,
You know, whether they perform poorly or well. Uh, but the pressure is like anytime Dave wanted me to test like a heavy workout, or you know, the every single speed ladder that he's programmed since back in 2015, like I've tested and done. And always when I do those, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, Dave, I'll put up a fucking time for you. You know, like you want me to test this, I'll do it. Let's go. So those are fun. But the snatch story was like basically all it was. He wanted to announce a workout online, so on Instagram, and it was a 1 rep max snatch. And he just said like, can you hit a heavy snatch right now? I'm like, well, how heavy? He's like, well, the teams are going 1 rep max. And I'm like, all right, how much time do I have? Like, just like right now. And the rogue guys are literally running onto the field with a barbell and like with the platforms, you know, and then you hear the bolt gun like like assembling a platform. I'm like, all right, let's go. Fuck it.
no pressure.
275. I'm like, yeah, it's 275. Okay, Dave. He's like, oh yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm like, okay, good, let's go. So that was exactly how it happened. And it felt good. So I did it. I actually hit 2 that time. I hit 1 at 275 and they were filming it. And I'm like, guys, that didn't feel too good. Let me do that again. And then I do it again and it just looked a little nicer. But yeah, behind the scenes with Dave has been super fun.
What is there any particular memory that stands out again as something that like you won't ever forget, like from your time demoing?
Yeah, for sure. Like every year, I can think of like a really fun, cool moment every year. Like the first year I was on the demo team, we got to practice remember the wheelbarrow
Yeah,
workout in the stadium in the
yeah,
bags,
yeah,
and that was super cool. And we got to practice, we got to test that workout. Um, like nobody in the stadium, pitch dark, just the lights from the tennis stadium. So like really cool feeling with Matt Chan and Zach Forrest that year and Jen Smith and Telena Fortunato, and then we had Christy Atkins as well. So that was really cool. That was like kind of my first awesome experience on the demo team. But other moments like testing last year, we tested or not last year, but I guess the workout first cut.
yeah.
So the one with the running,
On
the
the
snatches,
rope
and
climbs and yeah,
yeah. So we tested that at like 6 a.m. with nobody on the field, just Boz, the road guys, and like Justin Berg and Dave. And it was really cool because we did it all at the same time. Like usually we'll do a workout, not necessarily at the same time, so that we could, we didn't have all the equipment or whatever, but it was already set up. And so the 3 girls and 3 guys, we did it at the same time, which was really, really cool.
so
And it was
what
fun because
what day was that? So say that was the Thursday was that event, so what day were you testing it?
probably Wednesday morning.
Like, what's going to happen there? Like, if he's not going to turn around and be like, "Oh, fuck it, cut down the ropes. We won't use them." Like, do you know what? Like, what?
No,
Why do you think he looks for data so late in the day?
that I think that had everything to do with setup.
Okay.
So I think the workout had already been tested by different people. So like
Hmm.
James had tested it, and the girls had tested it. So I think it was more like data in terms of like where should the bars be and
Oh
how
yeah.
close. Do you remember watching that, man? Like
Yeah, I
it
was
was
actually at it.
mayhem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so there's like barbells everywhere, and it was just trying to figure out like how many bars could we fit in
Yeah.
lanes and things like that. So, but that was still a really cool moment because while you're testing it, I don't give a shit about barbells. I just want to beat chains. But we both lost to Chris Harris that day. Chris Harris beat us.
Yeah. Would you say that you've retired from competing?
No, I don't think so. Um, I've retired from training to compete.
Okay.
uh, whereas I think there's in the future I could very well compete again.
Yeah.
But I'm not necessarily planning to, and I'm not training like I will.
Okay.
So,
I think
um,
Pete, when I was talking to Pete, he said that the first mistake he made in at the CrossFit Games this year was trying to match your pace on Friendly Fran because he was like, "Yeah, that's probably all right." And then he went out and he was like, "It was way too hot," and he couldn't finish. Like he was doing failing reps at the end. So like
yeah,
you've obviously still got it despite not training to compete.
yeah. I mean, those are just like those are like really wheelhouse workouts, right? The
Yeah.
games this year was a little bit heavier than normal and very CrossFit-ish, like just plain old CrossFit,
Mm.
which is cool, and I think the way to program for an at-home CrossFit Games. But yeah, I mean, I still want to compete. It's still super fun, but um, it's just like the training that goes into it and the hours. Like I just don't feel like doing that anymore. I
So
feel like
you got
getting
a young family as well, like so it's probably
young family, but I mean, yes and no. Like anybody could make time. I think
fuck him.
like yeah, like I because I look, there's some guys out there that are still competing that have many kids, and
Yeah.
they make it work, and they still train several hours a day. I don't think it's the family
Mm.
that's really stopping me because I can guarantee you that if I went to my wife and said I want to compete again, I need 3 hours a day to train. she would say yes, and we would make it work. But
Mm,
I don't really feel like doing that.
mm.
It's not really. I wouldn't find that fun right now.
Yeah.
What I find fun is just
Does it bother you being asked if you've retired? Like, does that kind
no,
of
no.
assumption, like, because I'm always curious with, say, that kind of identity thing where it's like you're a competitor and you're a coach, and like, is there a place where Paul the competitor ends or Paul the coach ends, and like, like, do you ever struggle to separate that?
Um, it's really interesting because as long as the open exists, I'll always be a competitor.
Yeah.
Because I'll always kind of do the open, and I'll always want to do as best I can in the open. So if the open didn't exist, maybe I could be retired, because then I
Yeah.
would just wouldn't even try, and I wouldn't go to any event. But now that the open exists, man, I'm probably going to do the open, obviously, in my gym with my community, and then I'll try and just blast it as best I can, right? So then it's still I'm still in there, like, mentally, to do that. But the training or whatever, it doesn't bother me that you ask if I'm retired or not. I'm fucking 33 years old. So obviously the guys are younger, right? And it'd be normal for me to just kind of stop, but we'll see.
Yeah. Do you, say, when the open is on, would you be like, "Oh, I wonder how James did in that point
Oh
one?"
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. For sure. We'll still be texting each other, obviously. I'll still want to beat Pete in the open. I'll still want to
Mm,
beat Austin and Craig and all the guys that I know, and even the younger guys. Like, I'll still want to beat Jeff Adler in the open this year. I'll still try and do that. Who knows, if probably won't happen, but I'll still want to, right? It's just the training leading up to it won't necessarily be the same, but there's still intensity to it. It's just not necessarily the volume, but I'm still training pretty hard when I am training. It's just not long.
yeah.
I'll just train for probably an hour a day combined, and that's it.
Yeah. Um, Coaching then, I suppose, is something that's changed drastically. Like, even, especially with COVID, but even pre-COVID, for the last 5 or so years, there's been like so many coaches going online, and there's been so many athletes like releasing, templates, or, here's how I do what I do. Like, is it, uh, do you enjoy the far-reaching nature of it, or would you rather if it was like in person, in the box coaching?
Both. I think in the coaching ecosystem there could be definitely both, and I think obviously through COVID and I think that's accelerated a little bit, like the at-home fitness, and you're going to see a lot more of it. Um, and I think before all of this, people training at home and just thinking about remote coaching and training by themselves could have gotten annoying and lonely. But now with technology, and people are realizing how easy it is to just get on Zoom with their buddies to hit a workout, or even with their coach to do online classes, I think that's there to stay. So it's changed coaching a little bit, but I think it's got the potential to reach way more people if
Yeah.
we just embrace the online community, and obviously keep some of the in-person magic, but it doesn't mean that we can't do it online and take everybody online.
Mm. You launched Dad Sesh recently
Yeah,
enough. Is that from
yeah.
your own necessity to cram work into a small window that came from, or where did it come from?
I was bullied into this. I was bullied into it, and then I ended up really, really enjoying it. So, um, yeah, it started off as, let's just get our workouts in before the kids get up, and not because I wouldn't have time during the day, because I think you can still find time during the day to get your workouts in. I got to a point where I didn't really enjoy working out here at home while the kids were up and running around.
Mm.
It bothered me. It bothered me that like I would be rowing sometimes, and I'd hear my wife yelling at the kids, and I'm like, why am I rowing? Why am I not with them right now? Like,
Mm.
it like I'm not competing. I'm not. This is just strictly selfish. So I should. And then I would stop and just go inside. my
Yeah.
wife would be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I should be here. I shouldn't be working out for nothing, right?" So, but since I love working out so much, and I still wanted to find the ideal time for doing that. I'm not going to work out when they go to sleep at night, so might as well just get up earlier and work out. So it was just during COVID. Like Austin, him and his wife both work full time. They have a daughter, so he just started working out at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And out of kind of solidarity, I had already started a routine where I was working out at 6 a.m. And then I'm like, man, what's another hour? And out of solidarity, we just said, okay, next week, I'll do it every single morning with you. I'll go 5 for 5 with you at 5. He's like, all right. And then once we did that, I'm like, well, I'll do it again next week, you know? And it just got really cool. Like we're done our workouts at 6 a.m. and my kids don't get up until about 7. So I have an extra hour. I get an extra 2 hours for myself a day where I can work out and get some work done. So
Yeah. Then you
a
can
lot of
fall
the,
asleep from like 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. No problem. You just have a nap.
yeah, exactly. And then I just have a nap every day,
Yeah.
and there
See you
you
later,
go.
honey.
So,
It's like,
yeah, no,
yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people who work out early and get their shit done early will tell you that they're in a better mood during the day. They can do their tasks better. They can have more fun with their kids, and that's exactly what it did for us. Like I don't have to stress out during the day to get my workout in because it's
Yeah.
done. And if I have time and feel like hitting another workout, then I do it. But it's never a necessity.
Yeah. I don't know. Like we have a nearly 10-month-old, and the clocks are going to go back an hour next week, I think.
Oh boy.
And she's recently taken to waking up at 6 a.m. like religiously. Like I actually woke up before her this morning, and I watched my phone tick to 6 a.m. and she started going like, and I was like, fuck, it's like she fucking knows. Like, so
That's
now
hilarious.
listening to you talk about like, oh yeah, we get up at 5 and whatever workout, I'm like, yeah, but fuck, if she keeps waking up at the same time when the clocks go back, she's gonna be waking up at 5, so I'd have to get up at 4 to do a workout before she gets up. I was like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, if you go to bed at like
There's
6 p.m.
there's a limit.
Yeah.
There's a limit. So
Yeah.
like a couple weeks ago, Craig was like, I can't make 5 a.m. I think I'm just gonna do it at 4. And Austin and I were like, no. Like, don't be that fucking psycho. Like you're not getting up at 4 a.m. to work out. And he didn't. But there's definitely a limit. But your kid's in the crib, man. Just let her stay in there. I mean, she's not gonna jump out, right? Let her cry. She's all good.
Yeah, I don't know. I get that kind of guilt, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if my moral compass is akin to just being like, "Fuck her, she'll be fine. I'll keep rowing." Like, um,
Yeah.
I think as well, like between you and Ben Smith has started selling like dad fit and dad bod t-shirts and stuff, and it's like when I see you doing your dad sesh and him with his dad t-shirts, I'm kind of like, that's not what a dad is. Like, this is what a dad is. So this isn't fair. You're putting dads up on this pedestal that I can't even touch, never mind get on top of. Like,
Well,
um
that's when I started. That's what I said when I had my first kid. I was like, we're just gonna revolutionize the dad bod, like
mm,
one day at a time. But they're doing super well. Like I talked to Adam Klink on Instagram. Sometimes we shoot each other messages, and they have a really awesome growing community.
mm,
So they're doing really well. And I know Ben's like working out at 5 now at his gym, so he has a 5 a.m. class. And like a lot of gyms have that. Like we're
mm,
not that special. We're not the only ones on the earth working out at 5.
yeah.
Like it's a lot of people already do it. So but it's kind of when you get into that routine, it's just you feel so good.
Yeah, but
Waking up sucks, but you feel so good.
I think even like, cause say we'd have debates here, like myself and my wife, where it's kind of like, what is the best time to go to the gym? Because say we both get home, she's a teacher as well, so I get home at like maybe 3, she gets home at about 3:30, and it's like, right, well, if she goes to the gym at 4:30, like she's kind of ripping her time with Sloan when she gets home, she's kind of ripping that in half because she has to get ready and go. And then if I go at 4:30 and then she goes at 5:30. Like there's a lot of that kind of like, God, what is, because then 5:30 leading into dinner time and then bedtime, and any
Yeah.
later than that you're going to miss bath and you're going to miss bed. So I definitely do see the perks of it. Like, and I think as she gets older, like Sloan, not my wife, as she gets older, we'll probably start maybe looking towards training in the morning rather than the evening. And maybe now with the gyms closed, we might train in the morning because we won't have any reason to go anywhere in the evening. So I suppose it opens
Yeah.
up, like you say, it gets rid of that guilt of, sometimes you can be caught between like, geez, do I want to not train and have time with my family, or do I want to train and not have time with my family? So I suppose at least it eradicates that, even if you do have the
Yeah.
misery of like working out in the dark.
Yeah. And it's also so your daughter basically wakes you up every day, right? So like
Yeah.
you get up when she gets up.
Yeah.
And anytime that happens to me now, it pisses me off. Cause like I like to get up, like just get up on your own terms, start your day on your own terms,
Yeah.
have an hour, like, and my wife now, even she doesn't get up at the same time as me, but often I'll come in from the garage, all the kids are still sleeping and she's up and she's just like doing things and she's having a coffee, I think that is also super important for, when your kids get up, you're ready. Like you're not just getting up with them, like you're ready to hit the day because you got to be, you
Mm.
know. I mean, they get up and then 45 minutes later, one's on the bus and the other ones are crying. And it's mayhem. So you got to be ready to hit the day.
Yeah, that's true. Do you see this? I know you say that you see the online kind of thing becoming more common and more useful, I suppose, and more embraced maybe, like, but I guess I'm always curious about coaches seeing athletes and other coaches launching like online platform, that kind of do as I do model. uh so it's like, I suppose that thing of like, oh, I've been to the games and I've competed at this level, and now, you average Joe or Jane are going to, you can have my program and compete at that level, or, like aspire to compete at that level. Do you think that's something that's like healthy for, say, for the likes of me, or like average, yeah, maybe I'm slightly below average, but like average like CrossFitters to be like training, like, does it kind of take away the training for a health aspect of it and push towards a training for competition aspect, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, long answer, yes. Short answer, no. Like it's both, right? Like you just, um, it depends who's programming you're following and how much volume you can actually handle. But we'll always say, and you've heard this probably 1,000 times, intensity over volume.
Yeah.
So until you can actually give multiple workouts the intensity it deserves, then don't do multiple workouts. And the program that we sell for the dad sesh, or even for CrossFit NCR, because for the NCR program, we sell multiple workouts. There's the class workout, and then there's additional work. But we'll never say do the additional work if you can't give the workout 100% of your effort. So, and the same goes for the dad sesh. The issue there is that it's often mashups. So you've seen the mashups like Sherwood's linchpin mashups. Like those by design are made for the intensity to go down as you go on, right? But it's just to be able to kind of mash a bunch of things together in like a 45-minute session. And I think there's a lot of value in that as well. And you just have to evaluate your goals. Like if your goals are to actually just work out and have fun, then do whatever you want. It's like, I've had this conversation with people. It's like, you enjoy, running your dick into the ground for 3 workouts a day and you got time to do it. Sure. Just don't come to me and say like, hey, why am I not getting better? Why am I not going to games? Like then we can have that chat. But if you working out makes you happy and you want to work out more. Right. And so I think it really depends on your goals and different individuals. But I mean, for us on the dad sesh too, it's just, we're basically, we just decided, hey, we do this every single day. We're just going to take exactly what we do and put it on SugarWOD and see if people want it. Yeah. We're not scaling anything. It's basically, if you can do this with us, if you can do these workouts, this is what we did. If you want to scale it, scale it. If you want to take one piece of it, take one piece, whatever. They're just ideas.
Yeah.
So we're not really putting a whole lot of work into it. It's just like, these are our sessions. This is what we do for fun. So follow along if you want.
Yeah. Is the harshness of like maybe that need to go online and do the outdoor classes and stuff, because of restrictions, is that like maybe somewhat sweetened by the reaction of your community? Like, you know, I saw you and Pete and NCR itself put up a few posts or like restory a few things about people like maybe more eager than you even expected to turn up and train outside at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's been really cool to see. Like, you know, from the second we decided we're going outdoors, like the first day we still saw like 80 people.
Yeah.
You know, so that's for us. That's good, right? Like, we'll see on a good day inside like 140 people post COVID. Post COVID, like 140 people, and then like we saw 80 that day outside, and it was raining. So like, that's really cool. And there's probably something to be said there too. Like, people will just really go for that human interaction and being together more than online. But there's also like just the fact of the equipment, and people are sick of this, man. People are sick of being cooped up at home. And then another, you know, we got to reopen, and everyone's like super excited. We're going back to the gym, and then boom, again, we got to close again. So I think a lot of people are just like, you know what, fuck this rain. Let's go. Let's work out. Like, it's way better than staying inside. And then heading into depression season in the winter here, especially, right? So, but yeah, we've had man. The coolest thing is like the first day I was the first coach to coach classes the first day of the shutdown, and like I'm there at 6 a.m. It's dark, it's raining, and I see this girl who joined the gym the week before. Okay, she just joined the gym, new to CrossFit, knows nothing, but just likes fitness, and she just loved her first couple classes. And she saw our email saying we're going outside, and she was just like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's go." You know, I just thought that was amazing. Like, I would expect it from all our you know, our diehard
the
members that have been there. Yeah, the OGs that have been there forever. But then I didn't expect it from those types of people, and I just thought that was cool. And even, you know, whether it's outside, at home, inside, doesn't matter. You just gotta show up and do something, and she proved it. I thought that was really cool.
2021 then, are we going to see Pete and Paul going head to head for a game spot?
Oh man, I don't know. He's going for it. He's hungry for more, so he's going to be training really hard for it, and he's going to be doing the Open just like every year. So I hope he gets to qualify again and go to the games, because I know the feeling. I know the feeling of being at the games and not performing like you want, and being finished with your experience and thinking I want more. So
I suppose even because it was such a radically different experience than the one he thought he had earned, I suppose maybe that lit the extra fire as well, like, you know.
For sure. But every situation has its own like uniqueness, right? Like, he's one of the only 30 guys that got to do the COVID game.
Yeah, no one will ever forget this, like, ever.
Yeah, exactly. So I think in that sense, I think it's pretty unique and really cool that he got to take part in that in his own gym with his own community and everything. So, I mean, the season itself was absolute garbage, and the ups and downs of, am I training for something, am I not, and the toll that can have on an athlete mentally, especially when it's your first games experience. You don't really know what to expect. You basically don't even really know how to train for it, because you've never been. So it's like a lot of it's unknown, and then your emotions are getting tossed around by this stupid pandemic. So that's why I hope that for him, he gets to experience it again, and he gets to reach his goal again for real.
Yeah.
But yeah, am I gonna go head to head with him? I don't know. We don't often. We've done open workouts head to head, but for the most part, we'll do it either right before each other or right after. But it depends on the workout too. Like, we know some workouts is just like there's no value in going together.
Yeah.
Either because it's one of his like strengths or one of mine, and it's just like it doesn't really matter. And then there's obviously just like timing. If it works out, it works out. If not, whatever. But
Yeah.
I mean, Pete's given me a push in my training for the last 4 years, so I don't think that'll stop now.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to train with him basically at all during COVID, or a little bit here and there, and I felt bad about that for him because he had to train by himself. But hopefully I'll be able to push him a little bit more next year.
Nice. Okay, we'll finish with a quick fire.
Yeah.
So ski or row?
Quick fire. My answers aren't really quick fire. Sorry about that.
I know that up until now it hasn't been intended to be a quick fire. I'd rather it'd be a pretty shit interview if it was like, ice skating. Yeah. Just like move on to the next question.
Next question.
Ski or row?
Row.
Snatch or clean?
Clean.
Coach or compete?
Compete.
Oh, that's interesting. Squat or bench?
Squat.
Favorite male and female athlete to watch?
To watch. Rich Froning. Female athlete to watch. There's so many variables there, Why am I really enjoying watching them? That's the question.
Yeah. See, I wrote down this question. Originally, I wrote favorite female athlete to watch, and then I asked another couple of questions. Then I said favorite male athlete to watch. And I was like, wait, if I ask the female one first, it's no matter what way I ask it, it's going to sound pervy. So I need to put them together, or else put the male one first, so it sets the tone for the question. So no, in a purely like athletic performance, that was how it was intended anyway. I mean, whatever your mind made of it is your problem.
Yeah.
But
Tia for sure, and how dominant she is, and obviously Matt Fraser's fucking crazy dominant too. But there's something special about Rich and what he was doing early on in CrossFit.
Yeah, I think I spoke to James about it as well. I think when he moved to team, he really like set the tone as well for what was required and for what like James was saying, he like professionalized it, kind of like that. It was this, the dominance carried over, I guess.
Exactly, dominance from individual to team, and just made the team so legit. It's good. Yeah. Rich and Tia.
Cool. Okay, that's good. Cool. Right. Listen, thanks a million.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Best of luck with all your outdoor classes, and hopefully you get back indoors in another 10 or so days.
Thanks, man. And you keep the workouts up in your living room or in your garage or whatever it is while your gym is closed.
Yeah, I can dip my toe in the early morning sessions, and I'll let you know how it goes.
Please do.